Insulate fiberglass insulation works best when the fibers expand and come through the hose with plenty of air separating them. Insulate in its package is compressed for shipping and storage. Your job is to run it through your machine and hose so the fibers open as much as possible. You want to install Insulate in the attic mixed with the right amount of air to meet desired R-value requirements. R-values that are expected by the builder, the homeowner, building inspectors who enforce building codes, and the insulation contractor you work for. Your goal on every job is to get uniform coverage throughout the attic by following the recommendations on this chart found on every bag of Insulate. We'll look at machines made by 3 manufacturers: Unisul, Ark Seal, and Meyer. Most machines have 4 settings you control. Number 1 is RPMs, either of the machine engine, or if you're running the machine off your truck's engine, the PTO, or power takeoff. The other 3 are gear setting, slide gate opening, and air pressure. We'll use a typical Unisul machine, the Volumatic 3, as our basic example. Later, we'll cover controls on other manufacturers' machines. Before we look at machine controls and settings, let's look at what Insulate should look like coming out of the hose when you set your machine correctly. This is your goal: to feed and set your machine so the material passes from the hopper to the hose end and is conditioned so it looks like this. Not dusty, not clumpy, but light and fluffy. You're looking for a smooth, even delivery of material as it blows in a 10 to 12 foot throw Certainteed recommends. This is wrong. Note how the material is clumpy and stringy. Air is not mixed uniformly throughout the insulation. Something isn't right, and later on we'll discuss how to correctly set the machine so Insulate installs properly. When your machine blows clumpy, the result will be incorrect or spotty coverage. You'll probably use too much insulation to reach the desired R value, and that means you won't be getting the right R value across the entire attic, and also that you're wasting your company's money by using too many bags. This too is wrong. The Insulate is blowing dusty or ricey, and we'll also cover how to set your machine to correct this problem. A dusty blow is not only uncomfortable to work with, but it can result in incorrect coverage and incorrect R value. Let's look at how to set your machine so that it has the best ratio of material to air. This means the fibers are open with as much separation as possible between individual fibers. This is what gives Insulate its maximum insulating power. The first setting to consider is machine engine speed, as expressed in RPMs. For machines with their own gas engines, you want to run the machine at the manufacturer's recommended speed. The tachometer on this particular machine, for example, shows shaft speed, not engine speed, and should be set at approximately 1000 RPM. Check with your manufacturer's recommendations. If your machine has a power takeoff, a PTO, and gets its power from your truck's engine, adjust the engine speed to the machine manufacturer's recommended setting. You may have an indicator right on your truck to show the correct setting. In this case, the indicator should show about 1250 RPM, not higher. Setting the gears up properly is the second thing you must do. When you're using Insulate, the gear setting for Unisul Volumatic machines should be 3rd or 4th gear. The slide gate should initially be set to a 12-inch opening, with air pressure adjusted so you get a 10 to 12-foot arc from the end of the hose. You'll be able to tell immediately if adjustments are necessary. As for air pressure, follow the machine manufacturer's recommended initial setting, then make adjustments as necessary. In this case, our operator is starting with the air open to maximum pressure, and then he's adjusting the air pressure downward until he sees the material blowing at the correct density. Remember, you have to try to balance the air volume and gate opening. This can be a trial and error process, depending on humidity and other factors. Also, the person in the attic and the person loading the hopper have to communicate and work as a team to achieve the right balance of air and material. Now let's look at how to make adjustments to the machine settings if the initial settings do not result in blowing the correct density. We'll start with the slide gate. Opening the gate permits more material to drop into the feeder and into the airstream. Closing it retards the flow. So if your material is blowing ricey or dusty, open the gate 1 or 2 inches. If it is coming out of the hose looking too dense or lumpy, close the gate an inch or 2. At the same time, think about your air pressure. When you reduce the air pressure, you reduce the amount of air that is mixed with the fibers, which in turn increases the density of the insulation. While blowing a 10 to 12 foot throw, does the material still seem too dense? If so, close the slide gate. This should improve the ratio of material to air, making it lighter and fluffier, and creating the desired R value. You're looking for a balance between air and fibers, and if you've balanced air and material properly, Insulsafe should look like this. That smooth, even, fluffy flow we showed you earlier. Remember, your goal is not to open all controls wide open to finish an attic in record time. Your goal is to cover the full area at the right density to produce the desired R value, the one everyone expects, the one on the Insulsafe package chart. Remember this warning. Cupping will reduce coverage. You'll use too many bags of insulation to cover an attic, and cupping will result in less air between fibers and reduce thermal efficiency. So cup only when absolutely necessary, usually in tight areas where you can't blow a full 10 to 12 foot arc. So let's review. Set the throttle or PTO speed to the machine manufacturer's recommended setting. Choose 3rd or 4th gear. Position the slide gate at 12 inches as a starting point with air pressure opened full to start. Then, if material isn't blowing to produce the best flow, make adjustments in the gate opening and then the air flow. Remember, the slide gate and the air pressure work together. Every time you open or close the slide gate, you'll need to adjust the air pressure. The reverse is also true. Every time you increase or decrease the air pressure, you'll need to open or close the slide gate. Now let's look at the controls on the other 2 machines, Ark Seal and Meyer. This is a typical Ark Seal machine, and these are the controls. The engine RPM is controlled here with this knob. Set the throttle according to the manufacturer's recommendations. This machine has no transmission, so you don't have to be concerned with gear settings. There's only one. This series of pins controls the feed rate. You add and remove pins depending on whether you want a faster or slower feed and how much conditioning you need to get the insulation fibers to open completely. The slide gate is controlled by this crank. Turn the crank counterclockwise to close the slide gate. Turn it clockwise to open the slide gate. The machine has 2 slide gate controls, one at the front of the machine and one at the back. To control air pressure, you turn this lever like this. The lever controls this remote cable, which opens and closes a butterfly valve. Now let's look at the controls on this Meyer 1400 model. This is the throttle, which controls RPM. Consult the manufacturer's literature for the correct settings. This is the lever for setting the gear. To open the slide gate, turn this wheel clockwise. The number of inches shows on this indicator on the side of the machine. You control air pressure by adding or removing these weights. If you want to increase air pressure through the hose, add weights. To decrease air pressure, remove weights. The air pressure gauge is here on the machine. This bleed-off valve should be kept closed when you are using InsulSafe. Remember, it's somewhat of an art to making the right adjustments and getting a perfect mix. And there may be days when, for a variety of reasons, you have trouble getting the material to install perfectly. There are things you can do to correct most installation problems. We suggest you watch the Right Way video on machine troubleshooting. It has a lot of answers and will help you do a better job.